9 years, 9 months, and 9 days. He became the champion in 1980s, and he was the most celebrated icon of the Olympics in 1980 and 1976. He won 2 Olympic gold medals and bronze medals in Seoul 1988 in 400 meters hurdles. He was born in Dayton, Ohio in 1956, and he moved to Morehouse University in Atlanta, Georgia in 1976 to pursue his dream as an engineer. Who am I talking about? Edwin Moses, the most heralded 400 meters hurdle in history. In 1973, he had about 6 fastest world records in history of 400 meters. By 1973, imagine. This guy went on to win Olympics in 1976, but by 1980, when the Americans boycotted the Olympics in Moscow, that was in Russia because it was in enemy territory, the US decided to boycott the Olympics, and Edwin Moses missed out a gold medal of 1980. By 1988, Edwin Moses was fading with time as the new force like Danny Harris came along, because they've been competing for more than 6 years with about 5 years with Danny Harris, and Danny Harris saw that it was just a matter of time before he beat this guy Edwin Moses. And I remember one of my countrymen back then, he was called I forgot his first name, but he was called Maritim. His brother is over here, and he ran with trials and hit in Seoul Olympic in 1988 in Seoul, and he said the guy was a lightning. Edwin Moses was like a lightning. Imagine, he was undefeated for almost a decade. That's the better part of the last 21st century, when sports was really celebrated when it comes to athletics, and any professional sport was. Remember when during those days when arenas was being sold out for boxing during the Mike Tyson era, Michael Johnson sprinting 200, Donovan Bailey of Canada winning 1996 100 meters Olympics, and there's this dispute between Donovan Bailey and then Michael Johnson, the winner of 200 meters in Atlanta 96. When Donovan Bailey won that, when Michael Johnson claimed that he was the world fastest man, and Donovan Bailey was the world fastest man in terms of 100 meters, so they decided to recreate the event in the Toronto Skydome and see who's the winner, who's the world fastest man. And the price was put down. It was $1.5 million. Donovan Bailey ended up winning the race actually, and Johnson broke away from the race in the last 50 meters. It was because the race was divided in between the two athletes, 150 meters, because the other sprinter was running 100 and the other one's 200. Okay, let's go back to Edwin Moses. Edwin Moses actually wasn't supposed to be a typical runner, but he was a scientist, because he was a science major student in Morehouse, that's in Georgia, Atlanta. And most of his time he dedicated to doing some research in labs, but he ended up choosing a hobby to do sports. But he decided to settle. He went around trying basketball. He was a tall guy, about 6 feet 3 inches. He tried basketball, everything, but he eventually settled on 400 meters hurdles, and that's a man-killer event according to experts, because you have to cover 400 meters with hurdles. But Edwin Moses, being a scientist, came up with this idea that between every hurdle you have to cover 13 steps. That was the first time any athlete combined science and athletics. This guy was a genius. He used to have a heart monitor tied around his chest, below the chest, so he could note the heartbeats whenever he was training. And everybody seemed to be quite content with this guy winning until Danny Harris came. But because he was a guy who got involved with science a lot when it comes to sports, when mathematics. Just think about it, calculating the distance of between the hurdles. I know that you have to cover these hurdles within 13 steps. 13 steps. And every time he was consistent, every race, he won 122 races in 10 years, undefeated, 122 races. And that's quite a milestone. That's an achievement for anybody not being defeated within bracket of 10 years. But I would consider him as Unsang, one of the unsung heroes, because you've never had anyone talking about him. In 1986, when there was World Championship, I don't remember. I think it was in somewhere that was in Madrid in Spain in 1986. So in early of 1987, actually, and there was his compatriot I think Andre something and Danny Williams and Danny Harris, Andre Williams and Danny Harris, and these two guys, they were up to no good because they've been hailing the champion for quite some time. So they saw an opportunity in the early of 1987 that was in World Championship in Madrid, and they sensed that was their time. But lucky enough, as they closed to the finish line, everybody saw the finish line coming, but they couldn't catch up with Edwin Moses. But that was the first time Edwin Moses sensed a defeat from these new guys coming up, these youngsters. So going into 1988 Olympics in Seoul, Danny Harris has his opportunity. Actually, before that one, the World Championship again, that year of 1987, summer of 1987, that's when actually Danny Harris beat, for the first time, beat this guy Edwin Moses. But going towards Olympics, that was supposed to be his last farewell, his last Olympics. That would have elevated him in his career, but it ended up being a tragedy because it became Edwin Moses came short of gold. He came to position 3, and his compatriot countryman Andre Williams took gold, and I don't remember exactly the guy who took silver. But that just quite a short brief history of Edwin Moses, the most unheralded athlete in 400 meters adults. Thanks for joining me. Bye bye.